Well, back in my day, we had Prohibition.
Episode 200.
You just have a burning passion to continue to do this. That's all. It's a burning passion.
Either that or I'm just a freaking idiot, one or the other. Probably more the latter than the former.
Up the bank.
Stick him up, sir.
He's got an edge to him, you know.
Christmas carols piss him off, huh?
Christmas carols,
Awesome.
They piss me off if they're not played until before November. Like they brought up all the old-fashioned red stockings too, not just Mr. Red,
They
but
brought Mrs. Red and
all the various reds.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Chartreuse.
So yeah, that
I
was.
saw Rich walking into the clubhouse handing out press releases. The number of F-bombs I uttered with John's name on it.
Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball. Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We had a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming. The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off session.
Is this a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
And ring-a-ding-ding, boys and girls. It is time for another episode of Your Dark Companion. We are glad you're out there by the channel. Maybe you're watching us live at 5. Maybe you're going to wait around till you get home tonight and pick it up on the internet, wherever it might live out there. I don't know about those things. They keep me away from those things. That's probably the best play. Anyway, it is the 2nd of March today, and this is episode 200 of YDC.
Wow.
And I can scarcely think of a better way to commemorate this than by talking with a couple of guys who have been in here before, probably more than once, and talking baseball with them because we're at that baseball time of year. One is knee-deep in it. And it's kind of hard to imagine the baseball scene around here without him being knee-deep in it.
I'm knee-deep all the time.
You are. He is Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm great. Unfortunately, I'm sitting next to this other guy.
That other guy was knee-deep in it for a way, way, way long time, and it's still hard for me to get my head around the Rangers without him riding herd over the whole organization, because that's kind of what he did back then. He made his presence felt. If you were going to deal with the Rangers, you were going to run into him sooner or later, and you would come away knowing it.
Oh, yeah.
But this is not his first time in here with us either. He is the great John Blake.
Good to be back.
Man
It's
has
good
a
to
whole
have you.
press box named for him.
Yes,
An entire
he does.
press box.
I know.
It's more like a space station for how high up it is, but it is a functioning press box. I mean, it's just so hard to walk into the John Blake press box every day. I expect to be yelled, "Any more questions?"
Try taking tours up there. I do tours now of the ballpark, and when I take a tour group up there, I try to be as humble as possible, but I end up taking pictures with the plaque.
You don't tell them that that you used to own all this.
I try
That you
not
used to be, this used to be your turf.
I try to be a humble tour guide.
He takes all the little kids aside, kneels down with them, and says, "Hey, kids, someday, if you live right,
Right.
you can have a press
You can have
box
a
named after you."
stratospheric press box with your name on it.
So what is your exact function in the organization these days?
I am Mike. I'm a senior advisor and historian, and it actually keeps me pretty busy in terms of telling stories of the history of the franchise and taking care of the artifacts. We're we're getting ready to do a new artifacts exhibit at the George W. Bush Presidential Museum. Starts actually this week, and we're going to have Corey Seager's bat from the home run in Game 1 of the World Series and the final ball. And I love doing stuff like that and being able to tell stories. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but the podcast is kind of an extension of, in a lot of ways, of some of Rangers' history.
Well, let's get into this right now, because in addition to being on this podcast numerous times, these guys have one of their own.
Doesn't everybody, though?
Everybody does. Everybody does, but that's okay. For right now, anyway.
I guess.
So how did this come about? Because I got to tell you, I don't know if I would have really pegged you two as guys to be doing a podcast. I mean, this may be just me, but this surprised me.
Well,
however, I am by the channel for all of them.
Listen, I mean, from my perspective, the Morning News has wanted to do a Rangers standalone podcast, but we do a Sports Day Insider podcast with Kevin Sherrington and myself, and usually a staff writer, and we always have a Rangers segment on that. But I've wanted to do a Rangers standalone podcast that was more interview oriented than hot take oriented. And for me, to try and go out and get the actual guests that you'd want to have on that was going to be a hard ask. But John, who wants to keep the history of this organization alive and wants to tell the stories of the organization, and that is very important to him. In his new role, he's got more free time. He was a perfect kind of fit for, okay, I can access these guys and I can bring this element of history to everything. You know, he's got his own segment that we do on the podcast called The Archives in Arlington, where he's going back and looking at a part of history of the organization. And I think it tries to meet most fans where they live. There are a big segment of our demographic who are very much involved with interested in the history of the organization. And then there's, that segment that wants to know about the current club. So I think we try and mix both of them.
And I think you do a really good job of it.
Well,
you couldn't have got any better to handle the history end of it than John.
And I agree with Evan, and we can, Evan says we need to, yell at each other more sometimes on it, and there is some of that, but to me it was, and just being able to get, and we've had no trouble getting some of the old players. Occasionally I'll ask a guy, and he'll say, and he'll kind of. Evan is a problem at times, obviously.
I've heard that about him.
But for the most part, last year we had Josh Hamilton on. We hadn't done a lot. And we've had and occasionally, Evan will help, and we'll get some current guys. And I think we've had Nathan Eovaldi on the last few weeks. We had Skip Schumacher on.
We've had Ross Fenstermaker,
right, we had Jim Berger on last year, and I think we need to do a little more of that. But the thing is, in a lot of cases, the former players have much better stories too, and they're willing to kind of have more fun with it. I'm not trying to denigrate today's player and their interviews, but we can have some fun with some of the guys from the past, because you know how it was in the clubhouse. They used to needle you a lot more,
yeah.
And there are guys that still do that. So that's kind of the fun thing for me. But I really enjoyed talking about the current team.
Yeah. The astounding thing for me is the way you found guys that I had no idea that they were still around. Like you just had Benji Gill on there. Is he still in the area here?
He lives in Keller, but again, and Evan and I have talked about this, maybe theming it a little bit more maybe for this year. And it's really relevant now because he's managing the WBC team in Mexico that has two current Ranger players.
Alejandro Osuna and Robert Garcia. And
Right.
we talked to Benji a lot about that. He also managed Osuna in Mexico in the Winter League. So he has this really great kind of base of knowledge of Alejandro Osuna. And I think that this is a guy who is going to have an impact on this club somehow, some way this year and in years to come. John had a connection to him. And, he was also able to to John, I'm speaking over John right now, but the theme that John wanted to hit more on this year is it's the 30th anniversary of the first playoff team, the 96 team.
Right.
And John wanted to tell some more stories along the lines of people who were involved with the 96 team. Benji obviously has a story. It's not probably the one he wants to tell most, but he was going to be the starting shortstop on that team until, well, John, why don't you
Right,
finish it?
he had a ruptured disc in spring training in '96, and Kevin Elster, if you probably remember at that point, was a non-roster.
Yes.
Kind of, his career was pretty much over, and he was just trying to hang on. He drives in 99 runs that year, and it's kind of funny because Benji was again replaced by Elster after '97. We traded Benji to the White Sox and signed Kevin Elster. That it didn't work out so well.
Not so good.
In '98. Lightning didn't strike twice in that. But those are kind of the things. We'll have Mark DeRosa on this week's podcast, who's the manager of Team USA, again a former Ranger. We could run a lot of storylines, talking about Michael Young's relationship with D-Row. Skip Schumacher was supposed to, there's a lot of storylines.
Yeah, there are. And I think it's topical. I mean, this is the best Team USA team we've probably ever seen. And the work that Mark put into putting this roster together, and he talks at length about that in this interview. I think I really applaud the fact that John was able to pull the strings to get Mark, because he is a guy who's in demand right now between the network and being an active manager with a game that's going to start this week.
But he was great.
And he was
Gave
great.
us all the time we wanted. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, and it's been fun. We're not at 200 episodes, but I think we've done 28 now, so we're a little behind you.
Well, 200 probably shows me for the fool that I am, But nevertheless, we hit 200. I'm really glad for you guys to be episode 200.
You just have a burning passion to continue to do this. That's all. It's a burning passion.
Either that or I'm just a freaking idiot, one or the other. Probably more the latter than the former.
No. We all love doing this stuff. I mean, we all love. John was with the Rangers for most of almost 45 years. 40.
Yeah, this is 48 total in professional
48.
baseball. I've been involved.
I've been around 30. You've been on the scene for how many years?
No, somewhere around 30, 35,
and
something like that.
And we do it, and we do it, and we like doing it because it's been a passion of all of ours. Is baseball and connecting with the fans, and in John's case, connecting fans with the history of the game. And I really applaud how much he wants to connect fans with that and how much it means to him, like just to watch the effort he puts into the Hall of Fame and the artifact stuff at the ballpark. He takes it really, really seriously. It's not just like, hey, I'm team historian, I'm hanging around the ballpark. He puts effort into it, even down to the tours, know?
I still enjoy it.
For all the historical moments of Globe Life Field.
Right.
As they were.
Yes.
As they were.
But we talk about all three ballparks. So
it's neat. It's really neat what you guys what you're doing, John. I mean, this is something that you are very, very well cut out to do.
Well, I mean, and you know this too, Mike, and I'm not. A lot of people retire and they can't continue to do, I don't know how to put this, but the passion they had for what their real life job was, right?
Yeah.
And we're able to kind of do that still.
Yeah.
And I think it's
and that's neat.
I think it's great.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah. And as far as I'm just gonna, John mentioned George W. Bush, and John is a volunteer and a docent over at the library at the Bush Museum and Library. So it's not just baseball. And I don't know how much you know about John's fetish for presidential history. I've
had it on. I beat him in a game of naming the presidents. The last.
Yes,
this story. Did I tell you the story that we were in Cooperstown? The Rangers let me follow Adrian Beltre on his private tour of Cooperstown right after he got elected. So I flew up there with John and Adrian, team photographer, a couple other people. On the way back, I kind of goaded Adrian to I said, Adrian, he can name every president in order and the vice presidents. And Adrian said, no way. About 3/4 of the way through the flight, Adrian got John to start doing the vice presidents in order. Damned if he didn't do all of them.
Wow. Now that's impressive.
The vice presidents.
Yeah, I can do the presidents, but the vice presidents, I
I'm not sure I
wouldn't
could do
even
that
attempt it.
now, though. But you know, at the Bush, I mean, I worked for President Bush. We've talked about this, and this whole angle that now we can do an exhibit there and everything, and it's just the connections are great.
How many presidential museums do you still need to get to?
I need two.
Who?
Two. I've not been to the Gerald Ford, which is actually two museums in Michigan, and I still need the Hoover Museum in West Branch, Iowa.
Are you going to go to the new Theodore Roosevelt Museum when it opens on July 4th?
That's supposed to be a good one.
Is there a William Henry Harrison Museum?
Well, they're not official museums. Like the Teddy Roosevelt Museum is not an official. There's like 15 official museums.
I see. So it's not 47.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. The first one, Hoover has the first one.
So it's much less of an accomplishment.
They're run by the government and then National Archives and Records Administration. The government oversees them.
John told his wife Harriet in retirement that they were going to go see the rest of the museums and you know how thrilled she was to find out that they were going to go to the Hoover Museum in Iowa.
That's a tough one. You got to really try to find that one.
I was a swinging place. Let me ask you this. How has the way the Rangers are covered by the media changed over the years?
You want to handle that one first?
I'll start, I guess, because, I mean, I'm going to give Evan credit here of what he does because, you know, there aren't a lot of beat writers now that cover teams like the Morning News, and they're lucky. He's got a really good number 2 guy, too, in Sean McFarland, one of the best, well, certainly the best he's had since Fraley.
I must tell you,
Fraley
I've
passed.
really enjoyed his work. He is good. And we've had him in here, too.
Yeah.
Sean's good. Sean's, you know, hopefully at some point in time going to inherit this beat, and he'll be good at it, and hopefully he'll be doing it a long time.
But it's just, and it's hard, and this is one of the reasons I'm happy I'm not doing the day-to-day PR because, you know, it's just not, but it's not the same. And really, I mean, it's the Cowboys. There's still that competition, but you remember, I mean, there was so much competition on this beat back in the day when there were 3 newspapers, and then when TR was doing .com and there were 2 newspapers. You just don't have that anymore, and I think, you know, the players probably don't mind it.
Yeah.
But the scrutiny on the team, it's just not there as much. And I just don't know how people I know how people consume their information now, and hopefully they're consuming it through a lot of what the morning news does, and I think they do. But, you know, the lack of local television stations and everything.
I mean, sports broadcasts are, 90 seconds now, right?
Right. And it's just, I don't think you get the stories as much. And you don't hear the players as much. And
there is no question about that.
And I think I really do think that's a disservice, but it's the way it is. And it's not just here, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to have, so the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be without a print newspaper covering them because the Pittsburgh Press Journal,
Pittsburgh
Gazette,
Post-Gazette.
Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is going out of business on May 31st. The Miami Marlins have a part-time writer that covers them for the Miami Herald.
About Washington now.
Washington doesn't have a traveling beat writer, though the Baltimore Banner and the Athletic have scooped up people from the Washington Post. And so the day-to-day coverage of baseball teams is going away because it's more expensive and it's more travel heavy. But
and that's the beauty of baseball, too, is covering it every day.
Yes.
And the stories every day because the narrative is different. You know, if Evan's been away for, say, a week, you know, he's missed. I mean, you know, it's hard to just. It's not like these other sports where you can kind of just dive in. It's just things change so much, and the narrative changes.
You have no idea.
That's what I miss. That's what I'm going to miss.
Trip, when I miss like 3 or 4 games, just 3 or 4 games, and then I come back, I need the break sometimes. My wife and I will go away for a quick weekend somewhere. I need that break. But when I come back, the first day is so filled with anxiety because I feel like I know nobody in the clubhouse, nobody on the team. I feel completely lost because it's just those 72 hours of the thread and the fabric of the season having been gone feels like you just feel so out of touch.
I know when I was in the game, that's one thing I loved about it was the day-to-day of it. There's a game today, there's going to be another one tomorrow, and another one the day after that, and it just goes on and on. And I mean, that's for me. That's true for all sports. I just love the day-to-day of it.
Well, and that's one thing I love about baseball as opposed to football. If I was to cover the Cowboys, they present their own challenges. But the thing I always struggled with in covering an NFL team is how do you fill the week up? You know?
Yeah.
You know, in baseball, you're writing about a result every day, and that contributes to the story. And so that's the thing I've loved about covering baseball. Obviously, it's a sport all three of us grew up loving and adoring, and so being able to do that is a great reward in and of itself. And I got to tell you, to be able to do this for as long as this is my 30th season on the Rangers, to do it this long.
What do you need? One more?
I need
two more
to tie TR. TR has 32 years on the Rangers. I'm not that worried about that, but
TR is.
He gives me some grief about it all the time.
He's
but
still at it, isn't he?
He comes to some games.
Yeah, he
occasionally.
works. He still writes for us for our publication.
Okay.
He actually has a book coming out in this spring on the Ranger
he does?
stories.
He does, yeah.
So you ought to keep
TR's
that
memoirs.
in mind. Yep.
We're hopefully going to have him on the podcast at some point in time.
Yep.
But
I got to do what you guys do then, so we will too.
To do this 30 years in one market for me is like so rewarding because I grew up like, you know, we've talked about this, that I grew up a Braves fan. I grew up like knowing everything about that organization, and to have a connection with even the guy who was covering the team, like you felt a connection to that. Just like people who listened to Eric Nadel and who listened to and watched Mark Holtz had that connection. There's like this group, this generation of readers who have come up to me at different places and say, read you since I was a kid. And I can't tell you how fulfilling that is.
The question for me is, are we going to have that going forward, that type of connection, or people kind of zoom in and out? And as a PR guy, it's kind of the same thing. I did it every day from spring training, and, you know, the good and the bad. And, you know, Evan and I certainly had our differences at different times. But for the most part, I can't, you know, over 30 years, it's kind of worked to at least okay to the point we can actually be civil and have a podcast together. But it's still, it's like he says, the day-to-day for me was really, that was kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
Because no day was the same.
Yeah.
No day, you know, every day was different.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoyed too.
And listen, I mean, the thing about being a beat guy and being around every day, like last week, and this is the great thing about baseball, I feel like. Last week I wrote this feature on Jake Latz, and I actually got to sit down with Jake and spend a good hour to him talking about what he'd been through. And I felt like I got to flush the story out a little bit more. And you don't get that kind of time on other beats. You can't even develop. A, you don't get the time in the locker room or the clubhouse. B, you don't have any ability to develop relationships with players where they will trust you to sit down with you for an hour and tell you their story. And so the ability to do those things, whether it was for Jake Latz this year or Jake Berger and his wife and their baby Penelope, who was born with Down syndrome last year, to do that stuff, I think allows for fans to get a deeper connection to their team. And I think that does benefit both me as a journalist, the team, because it allows for that connection. I think the fans feel enriched for it.
Everybody.
But you don't
wins.
have as much of that anymore. You know, I mean, it's just on radio, TV used to do more. And as I said earlier, I think we're all, it makes it harder for me. I think the fans are the ones that are missing out.
Have you been to spring training yet,
John?
I have not.
Evan?
I've been there I was there for 18 days. I'm home for about a week. I go back on Thursday of this week, and I'll be there right up until the end. We've got a wedding we've got to go to, so I won't be there the last 2 days, but Sean will come back out and fill that. And so that's the other thing is like we put the resources in. We'll have somebody, at least 2 people at spring training for the great majority of days out there. So it's been a great spring so far in terms of atmosphere, energy, just the whole idea of this change in culture. And this is not a slam at Bruce Bochy. It's not a slam at anybody. When you change, oh look, Grooves is here.
Oh, Shoopy.
Yay!
He
made it.
He held up a bank, and now he's here.
Right when I'd given up on you.
I have so much money now.
Yeah, we heard you were held up at the bank, and I said, did he have one of those little masks on, those little kerchiefs like in the old Westerns?
Yeah, that's John's point of reference.
When he was
good one.
holding up the bank.
Stick them up, sir.
But it is a good atmosphere. And look, I've told Rangers personnel this, that while they've crowed about this, I said, yeah, it is a good atmosphere. There is good energy here. But it's also what you should expect. If you've made a change and you've brought in a new manager and your expectation is to change the culture and change the energy, then I would hope that the first 2 weeks of camp would go well. If not, then we've got a bigger story.
I would imagine from what I've read and what I've heard about him, I would imagine there's a little bit of difference between a Skip Schumacher spring training and one by, say, Doug Rader or somebody like that.
That's a good one, Mike. You want to tell Doug Rader stories? Yes, there's a big difference between Skip Schumacher and Doug Rader in Pompano Beach. Yes.
I got to tell you, I'm proud of that.
Well, you never knew what was going to come out of his mouth, or what he was going to throw, or what was going to happen. Yeah, that was a little volatile.
My experience with Doug Rader was after the Rangers. I had him. He was the bench coach for the Marlins when I covered him. And I had asked some question. He had a knee surgery, and I asked a question of him about that when he got back, and he just blew up. That was like my first interaction with him. Just blew up entirely. 2 weeks later, he's giving me mystery books to read because he wanted me to read these books that he loves so much. I even forget who the author was. But you never knew which Rooster Raider you were going to get from any day.
No.
The other great story about him is in Miami, he lived, I think, in Jupiter.
Lived in Stewart.
So he lived about 60, 70 miles from the ballpark. And
Still
drove
lives in
home every
Stewart,
night.
I think.
Wow.
And at the end of the night, the Rooster would come through the clubhouse. He'd have one of the sanitary socks, and he would just put beers in it until it was stuffed with beers. And so that thing could hold like 12 beers. He'd sling it over his shoulder, go out to his car, and drive. It's very safe. I'm sure very safe on the highways of South Florida at that point in time. But that's just the way it was.
But anyway, yeah, I've met Skip a few times. I've observed him. It's just different, and I think the Rangers, like Evan said, probably needed a different at this point. Bruce Bochy was certainly the right man in 2023, and whatever the circumstances were and everything, but I think also there was a lot of frustration last year because and Mike, you've done this a long time, and we've all said, boy, if we'd had that pitching staff in 96 or 98 or anything close to it, we would have been better than the New York Yankees. But I think there was a lot of frustration that the pitching and the defense, I mean, they set a major league record for fielding percentage, was so good, and you were struggling so hard to win ball games.
It's the biggest man bites dog situation I've ever seen.
It's just amazing.
The number of times I wrote last year, if you had this pitching staff ever before, and this offense just doesn't do anything. But I think that's some of the frustration that existed is, this is where Boch is battle tested. He's a guy who, as a veteran manager, believes in his players, runs them out there, isn't going to make a lot of changes, trusts the players to manage their own clubhouse. I think what Chris Young saw over the last 2 years was a clubhouse that wasn't doing a good job of policing itself. and he felt like there needed to be more proactivity or more proactive approach towards some of the changes in the lineup. And so inevitably what happens is you take an older, kind of more laid back guy in terms of how he manages, and you make a change, and what are you going to do? You're going to go for the young, energetic guy. And that's the way the pendulum swings in baseball, basketball, any sport. There's never, we're going to hire the same guy. To his credit, I was talking to Skip the other day, and something came up. It's like, what song do you listen to when you really want to get pumped up? And he said, look, I idle at 60. Do you think I really need something to get pumped up? But then he said, when I work out, I listen to Disturbed a little bit, which is interesting. He also said, and then I'll listen to Christmas carols because they really piss me off. And when I want to get pissed off, then I'll listen to Christmas carols. So he's got an edge to him,
Christmas carols piss him off, huh?
Christmas carols,
awesome.
They piss me off if they're not played until before November.
They piss me off if they're playing before December.
Yeah. I'm a
My
December
wife would
guy
play
too.
him the first day of autumn, but yeah, he's a different cat, and I think you're going to see him be more willing to make quick changes if need be in terms of the lineup or personnel. Is this Disturbed right now?
Damn right it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're getting down with the sickness right now, Evan.
Well, the other thing, and I'll say this
I
too.
am pumped up like Skip Schumacher.
The coaching staff too basically went over an entire transformation. Nobody has the guys who were there before. Nobody's got the same job. They redone the entire coaching staff, and in this day and age, back when the old days, you would have 6 of your friends, and it really wouldn't matter that much. It matters now. It matters a lot.
Everybody's got a real job, and I think Boch didn't have the ability to bring in Ron Wotus or any of the guys that he had in San Francisco who knew him. And so I think the guys that he inherited here really looked up to him in almost a deferential way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that they challenged him a ton.
I'm not sure that helped communication either. And people just sitting around his office and things like that. And this
and that's
group
not
is,
a criticism.
No, it's not a criticism. It's just, again, like the things changing. And I think that will be, you'll see a difference there too.
I used this story on the first day of camp, right? That Skip goes into his first meeting. He's got the pitchers and catchers because, pitchers and catchers obviously report. And typically what happens is the manager goes and gives a speech, and then a week later when the whole team is there, he gives a speech again to everybody. I asked Skip what he said. He said, I didn't say anything. I said, why? He said, well, I want my coaches' voices to be heard.
Right.
Jordan Teagues, the new pitching coach, who was the bullpen coach last year, he ran the whole meeting. He said everything. And I think there were multiple messages that went with that. 1, I'm going to trust my guys. 2, their voices do matter. And 3, I don't have to run everything. So I think that was a really good tone to set on that first day of camp.
Yeah, I would agree. Now it comes down to can the offense show difference from
the meetings are great, but can you hit, fellas?
And that's what we'll see over the next few weeks, and then leading into the season.
All right, hold that thought. We will get into it directly, and I also want to know a little bit more about the coaches too, because who are these guys? That's what we'll get into here in just a minute. But before we do that, well, first of all, this is Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News. This is John Blake.
Yay.
Rangers historian. We are talking Rangers baseball today here on YDC, but right now it's time to stop down for the dreaded and feared mid-show read.
Oh, no.
My goodness.
All right, where is this thing?
Oh,
What do
God.
we got here?
We just have Toss a Kelly right now.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one at the end.
You got this, Shoopy.
All right.
Wing it.
Okay. All right, we will wing it and talk to you about the CBD House of Healing. Now, maybe you guys are walking around out there and you don't feel too good. Something's hurting. It's been hurting for a long time and you can't put your finger on what it is. And I'm talking about physical hurt here, the bad kind. There's not a good kind, but this is a pretty bad kind. You'd like to get it fixed, but you've tried a lot of things. None of it's worked. Let me ask you, have you tried CBD yet? If you haven't, you need to go to the CBD House of Healing. The CBD House of Healing is in Dallas, and it is run and owned by a registered nurse. Now, I'm not sending you down to a head shop or anything like that. They approach all this from a very medicinal standpoint. And if you'll go in there and talk to her, tell her what's going on and what you would like to get done about it, chances are she can come up with something that will help you out. Now, you're probably saying, how do you know this? Well, I know it because I was in this situation not too long ago myself. And I went there, I talked to her, and she gave me stuff that did help. And it helped more than just a little bit. It got me feeling pretty good and back on the road again, actually. Now, if she can do that for me, she will do it for you. So don't waste any more time. Don't walk around in pain. There's no need for that. Go to the CBD House of Healing. You will find them in the northeast quadrant of the burgeoning intersection of Northwest Highway and Jupiter Road. Go by there, tell them you heard about it from us here on YDC, and start your healing journey at the CBD House of Healing. Is that it?
Hell yeah.
Do you
to
think
baseball.
do you think we need to refresh some of our younger listeners on what a head shop is?
We probably do. I do it from time to time.
Vape shop?
Yeah.
It's a vape shop.
Yeah, think
vape shop, kids.
Think of the vape shop is kind of the head shop on steroids.
Is that true, John?
Well, back in my day, we had prohibition.
You should have seen John when old, what's his name, Kevin Costner came busting in. Elliot Ness.
That's
Oh,
right.
my God.
Yeah.
You know, it's masterful bon mots like that that have put him where he is. There's no doubt about it. All right.
Why do you think we have a speakeasy at the ballpark?
That's right. That's right. All right. Now, new manager, new coaching staff. Who are these guys?
So, all right. So let's run down a couple of the new guys. A couple of the new guys should be pretty familiar, actually, to Ranger fans. The guy who Skip is very close with, and who was the last manager for whom he took the field for as a player, former Rangers catcher Rod Barajas, is the quality control coach and does a lot of additional bench coach elements and works with the bench coach Luis Ureta, who was here last year and who is also very close with Skip. And Rod had been in the Padres organization for a very long time. He had worked really closely with Skip, went with him to Miami as one of his quality control coaches there.
Played here 2004 to 2006 in the Showalter era.
Yep.
Pretty much as a regular catcher. And that little power.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, he's a former Ranger. And then
the new first base coach, everybody knows, right. Travis Jankowski, El Blondie.
Yes.
Which right off the field to the coaching staff.
Yeah, and I mean, look, if you're talking about clubhouse culture and all of that, Travis was a great chemistry guy in 23. Certainly the roster has turned over since 23, but there's still a number of guys who were here in 23 and when he came back in 24, and he can relate to him as a peer, not just as a coach, as a peer. And I think he's gotten guys, he is working with Corey Ragsdale on base running and outfield work, and Corey obviously has been here a long time and knew these guys, even a number of them, even when they were in the minor leagues. And I think that, you know, they've worked really well together to get guys to buy in to being more aggressive on the base paths. And I'm not talking about just stealing bases. The Rangers were an effective base stealing team last year. But the other day they had a situation in Goodyear where I forget who it was, doubled in the first inning. And Sam Haggerty tried to score from first base. Rangers weren't sending those guys last year. He was thrown out in the regular season. That probably gets a review, and I don't know if it gets overturned. But the idea was we're going to push it. And what I liked about it was the player who hit the ball was Danny Jansen, a catcher. Mm-hmm. And when it was all over, he was standing at third. So he took that extra base as a trail runner on a play where there was an out made. And that's the kind of aggressiveness we haven't seen. So I think there is some buy-in to, like, we're going to make things happen more often.
Wow, a catcher taking the extra base, huh? Wow.
It's a new game out there, Mike.
Needs to be.
Who else do we want to know about on the coaching staff?
I don't know. You tell me.
Alex Cintron.
Well, Alex Cintron was with the Astros. for some of their more interesting seasons. But he's an experienced hitting coach who's the assistant hitting coach to Justin Vealey, who was here last year.
Yeah.
And Justin was, kind of after the Rangers dismissed Donnie Ecker, he was kind of in a split role with Brett Boone, and it was that they worked the situation as best they can. But what I do think is that Justin has now a full year of working with these guys and has more buy-in, and I think the voice is going to be a little bit more unified.
The interesting thing too, I mean, on the pitching side, Mike Maddox has been replaced now by Jordan Teagues, who was the bullpen coach last year, has been in this organization for a number of years with a lot of these younger minor guys that are coming up from the minors. Very highly regarded. He's in his early mid-30s, I believe.
I think Jordan is 37 or 38.
Right.
There was real concern that the Rangers would lose Jordan Teagues if they didn't promote him. And I think that, he had, to John's point, he was the guy who oversaw Jack Leiter's pitching development program in 23, during which he didn't pitch in games, but he made huge strides. He worked with Jake Latz. He worked with Cole Winn, two guys who made huge strides last year at the big league level. And so I think he's a great guy in terms of, let's face facts. Mike Maddox is a great pitching coach and a great game planner. He didn't need to do a whole lot with Nathan Eovaldi or Jacob deGrom except stay out of the way.
Yeah.
But I think for these younger guys, Jordan is a really, really good fit.
That's what I liked. It's a kind of a younger staff in a lot of ways, and I think it's going to be a real asset. But again, as we get back to it, the boys have to get it done at the plate.
I mean, that's what it all comes down to. Is I was asked today at an event at the ballpark, what do you think about camp? And it's still, everything's going great, but it comes down to Jake Berger has to hit, Josh Young has to hit, Jock Peterson has to rebound, Evan Carter has to stay healthy and show he can hit against left-handers. If you do that, you can play with anybody in the league if you're healthy. It's just a question of, that's four guys that at least three of them have to have significant rebounds.
The biggest change in the offseason was they sent Marcus Semien away. Now Brandon Nimmo is here. Tell us about him. What's he going to bring?
He's going to bring a new leadoff hitter with a proven on-base percentage. This is a .350 on-base guy. And look, the last few years, he's been a better offensive player than Marcus Semien. There's no other ways around it. And I think what the Rangers felt like the Semien-Seager dynamic, you can break it up however you want. These two guys just didn't have much of a relationship whatsoever. The Rangers needed them to work in tandem. They didn't. I don't know that there was any hatred expressed or this toxic mentality, but I do think it filtered down through the clubhouse that, like, Marcus did his thing his way, Corey did his thing his way, and the young players were kind of left to say, well, which guy am I going to emulate? Can't follow both of them, so you're only going to follow one. That leads to some clubhouse fracture. But to have the ability to make the trade with a guy who had 2 years in a row of sub 700 OPS, fill a need in right field where you got rid of another guy with sub 700 OPSs in consecutive years, and saved a little bit of money on the front end, was a pretty significant baseball trade for this club. I don't know that they make the Mackenzie Gore deal if they don't get the Semien for Seager deal done for the Semien for Nimmo deal done when they did, because it got them about $5 million up front, and Mackenzie Gore is going to make 5-6 this year.
How do you see the bullpen shaping up?
Can I pass on that?
No, you can't pass.
I
think
think that
get you in here to pass, Evan.
I think that's the big question, man. There's I think the thing that gives everybody a little bit of pause is that there's no established closer. And I think also the fact that you don't look at anybody and say, well, there's traditional closer stuff in terms of arsenal and some experience. Nobody out there is a tried.
I could make the point over the years, how many of those guys have the Rangers really had?
And that is Chris Young's
John
report.
Wetland, Joe Nathan, Feliz for a couple of years. Aren't a ton.
That's CY's retort on this all the time. He says, look at the team that won the 2023 World Series. Now they did acquire Aroldis Chapman, and he did have an overwhelming fastball, but he also struggled. You know, he wasn't that much of a factor in the postseason. But Josh Sborz stepped up. Jose Leclerc stepped up.
Use Gray, use Bradford, and they stepped up in mid-relief roles.
Yeah. And then in 24, Kirby Yates had a great year. He's not an overpowering guy. Last year, those guys all overachieved, and they didn't have an overpowering guy. So his retort is, you don't necessarily need to have that guy. And my answer to all of that is, I get it, and I look at it a little bit like chicken soup. A 99-mile-an-hour guy may not help you, but it couldn't hurt, and the Rangers have some candidates there, but they don't have experience.
That's the interesting thing to me, Mike, on bullpens. Is you look now, and the teams that do have a lot of success, they have 2 or 3 guys that come in and throw 100 with movement. And the Rangers have really never had that. I mean, Feliz, would you say, might have been when he was young?
Well, the first 2 years of Feliz, for sure.
But, I mean, how many guys, Chapman, but again, like you say, but can they get by without that guy right now? And it's at least early in the season.
And that will be a storyline early in the season, is how this all shakes out. We haven't seen Chris Martin pitch in an exhibition yet, and that is not because he's hurt, but he's 39, and he does have an injury history where he has these things tick up. So we haven't seen him pitch. I don't think he'll pitch until probably next week. He'll get about 5 innings in during the course of spring training, which is enough. Josh Sborz is still rehabbing from shoulder surgery. We saw Cole Winn take some steps last year, but he needs to take another step.
You've liked Gavin Collier and some of these younger guys.
But Gavin Collier, there's a history there where he hasn't thrown strikes consistently. Same thing with Mark Church, who's hurt right now. Same thing with Emiliano Teodo, who's hurt right now. But before this season is out, the Rangers, just like they had Cole Winn step up last year, they're going to have one of these young guys, whether it's Collier, Robbie Ahlstrom, Mark Church, Emiliano Teodo, Isaac Tiger, somebody step up and come from the minor league system and be a contributor.
And the interesting thing, Mike, is, you've been around a long time. Developing pitching has never been a Ranger forte over the years. But you look at it now, and again, I'm not trying to sound like the PR guy, but
you were the PR guy.
But you got Leiter, you got Kumar Rocker, you got Jake Latch, you've got some of these young relievers. Hopefully there's some hope there, that you can kind of expand the development of your pitching staff so you have more. So you're not bringing in 6 or 7 guys every year.
You're not remaking the bullpen over and over.
Which has kind of been the Rangers' thing over the years.
What the hell? I don't know what it's doing.
So, I think they've done a pretty good job in player development, and that's what they've got to keep doing. They've got to do. You can say, Leiter was the 2nd pick in the country, Rocker was the 3rd pick. Yes.
But Latz was a 5th-round pick, and he's been in the organization now 9 years. Cole Winn was a 1st-round pick in 18.
But took a long, circuitous route to get here.
And then these other guys that we just talked about in the minor league system are all young guys as well. So they are developing guys. They just need to take the next step at the big league level. I think their pitching situation, you'd like to have a little bit more depth in the rotation in case you get an injury. But I think their pitching situation overall is far healthier than it's been as far back as I can remember in the Rangers organization.
Me
too. I mean, obviously they got guys there for sure, but there's some situations and some roles have got to clear themselves up.
100%. And Jake Latz is in all of this. Jake Latz is the biggest wild card of the season because he could end up in the rotation. And based on last year, and this is another one of those like gobsmack moments, right? In the past, a guy pitched like Jake Latz did in the rotation last year, and you're penciling him in, not penciling him, you're marking him in a Sharpie in the rotation. Jake was great last year as a starter for 8 starts. There's no guarantees that he's going to emerge as a starter. And I think if the Rangers had their way, they'd see from Kumar Rocker enough to justify putting him in the rotation, taking Latz and moving him into a Swiss Army kind of role in the bullpen to start the year, who could pitch multiple innings, but who could also end up being your closer before it's all said and done.
How likely is that?
I think it's... I think a lot of it is going to depend on, Chris Martin and Cole Winn, because I think those guys and Robert Garcia, they're all going to get the first shots at it.
But now you said it depends on Rocker's development. How likely is that?
I think the Rangers have been. I think I left right the day that Rocker made his second start, so I didn't get to see that or talk to them about it. I think they've been so far. Let's put it this way: the last year, Rocker came out, made 2 starts at the beginning of spring training. They were both really bad, and he disqualified himself from the competition. This year, he's done nothing to disqualify himself. They also have the ability that if they can get themselves to where they feel we can run Kamar out there in the rotation 5 innings, bring in Jake as a lefty behind him for 2 innings, and get through April and then see where we are, because Cody Bradford should be healthy then. I think the Rangers really like that dynamic, but there's still a lot to be played out in 3 weeks before that camp breaks.
Yep. I hate it for Cody Bradford, because when that guy got hurt, and I know it's been a while now, 2 years ago?
He's had injuries each of the last 2 years,
When he was pitching right before he got hurt.
24, he came out of the chute and looked.
He was really good.
Yeah, he really did look like he was the real deal.
He really knows how to pitch. He really knows how to command the strike zone. He knows how to use movement. Again, I think there's going to be at some point in time, if this all goes according to plan, 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to look back at this golden age of Ranger pitching and say, okay, Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi were great pitchers, but they were also heavily invested in young pitchers. And guys followed them. They were open to talking. They were proactive in talking to pitchers. You talked to Jack Leiter about Nathan Eovaldi's involvement. You talked to Jacob Latz about that. The same thing goes for Cody. Even though he didn't pitch last year, he had a lot of time to spend around those guys and to talk pitching with. And for a guy like him, especially a detail-oriented and really granular pitching game plan type guy like Eovaldi, I think that's really important in his development.
You don't think the young pitchers were following Kevin Brown and Kenny Rogers like that in the old days, do you, Mike?
No, I don't think they were. I don't think Kevin Brown or Kenny Rogers wanted any part of that.
But at that point, right, you go back to that point in time, right? There was Nolan, right? And everybody wanted to follow Nolan, but Nolan was also on this different pedestal.
Nolan was also in his 40s. So
right, and I don't know how available he was to players at that point in time. And then the other guy was Charlie, right? And Charlie was a great pitcher, but he was, he was a trick.
Yeah, he was a knuckleballer. He had a party trick.
He could talk to you about being a baseball lifer, but nobody could throw that pitch. So it wasn't like talking about pitch usage and stuff like that he could really help a guy out.
I think he may be the most underrated Ranger. There are a lot of them, but you look at what Charlie Huff did. I know we're getting off the subject, but all those years when you would come out there, Charlie would win 17 games on a bad ball club and throw 270 innings and lose 5 times, 1-0. So,
and then go in there and get dressed and light up a heater.
Light up a
on
heater.
The bicycle, right? Ride the exercise.
My great vision of Charlie Huff also was he finished his career with the Marlins the year that I covered him, and Charlie would be in the clubhouse afterwards, and they had those these things where you would slide. They were like a sliding board, but you would do speed skater drills on them in these little booties. And Charlie, he's 46 at this point in time, 45.
Right.
He's in there. He's got the big cup of vodka or beer in a big Coke tumbler. He's got the heater going, and he's over there speed skating at the end of when we walked in the clubhouse. It was a great sight to behold, man.
Didn't mean to digress, but
you can always digress, John.
Yes, you can always digress. You got stories.
Tell some more.
Who's your favorite Ranger of all time, John?
Me? I mean, that's a tough question. I think it probably is Nolan Ryan, just because, and again, this goes back to being a PR guy, and you remember the franchise we got no publicity nationally. We were kind of, except when we stopped letting people bring chicken into the ballpark and things or when we were
You were the Colorado Rockies, you were the Miami Marlins.
Whatever it was. And getting Nolan just changed that narrative. I mean, in terms of the national publicity and the way he handled it, the way he worked with us. And we tell these stories now that Nolan would get 10,000 pieces of mail a week. And people, and we were having to deal with that. And it's just...
Did you realize it was going to be that way when they brought him in here?
Not at all.
But then the historic moments started happening, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could predict that he got the 5,000 strike. Did he have the 300th win when he came to the Rangers?
No,
so he had the 300th
90,
win and the 5,000 strikeout in front of him. But the no hitters, the bloody lip, the brawl.
It's everything he did. And if you remember the first month he was here, April of '89, he took 3 no-hitters into the 8th inning. Had one that was 8 2/3, and it just kind of, the narrative just was like that. Struck out 300 guys that year.
There's Advil commercials.
And that's the other thing. We never had a guy do national commercials. It was, I would say probably, now I've had a lot of guys that I've really enjoyed working with. For the most part, there's a few. I mentioned one of them earlier. And it's Kevin Brown. It's not Kenny. But I would say probably Nolan. And then he was nice enough to bring me back here when he was club president after the 2008 season, which from Boston. And, that from a family situation, that helped a lot because my daughter did not like living in New England after growing up in Texas. So, and I had really good years coming back. So I would say that. It sounds like, that's the obvious one, but it's really true.
But you're the master of the obvious.
So,
real quick, did you say something about people were bringing chickens to the ballpark before Nolan got here?
No, what the Rangers did
was cluck at the park.
What the Rangers did used to be able to bring food into the ballpark.
Okay.
Prior to the 1984 season, and I will say this is before I got there, so this is not. They told Mike remembers this. They banned food from people bringing food to the ballpark. Problem was, they didn't tell anybody. Okay, They get to opening day, and people would bring food, and they were confiscating it at the gates. And this family had brought a bucket of chicken, and they came out to pick up their chicken, and all that was left was a bucket of chicken bones. The guards, the security people had eaten the chicken. And this became a big story. The people ran to Channel 8, and
they hate my chicken. They're eating the chicken.
And it became a big story. They showed them the empty bucket with the bones, and Eddie Childs actually made him rescind the no food into the ballpark. So that was kind of the narrative of the Rangers in those days, Groobs. That's what it was.
That's why they needed you as the master of the
whatever it was, but. So that's the old chicken bones.
I thought it was literally bringing in a chicken.
No. We brought a goat in once to try to end a losing streak. That didn't work very well either. But
so how many wins you forecasting for this thing, Evan?
I guess I get to go first there. I don't get to answer the easy ones, like who's my favorite Ranger.
All right, who's your favorite Ranger?
Michael Young.
Okay.
Yeah, Look, I've felt very fortunate that I covered pretty much almost every out of Michael's career. I don't think he gets enough credit for being the consummate pro at a point in time when this organization had a huge amount of dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of, people talk about the importance that Will Clark had on the 96 team in terms of chemistry and clubhouse culture and all of that. I think some of that got passed down to Rusty Greer, who didn't get a career long enough to really expand on that.
He got hurt.
But Michael came in at the tail end of Rusty's career, picked some of that up, and had his own certain charisma and style. And I think he made other players better.
They made him change positions 3 times.
Yeah.
And he did it, except for the last time. He did it with a lot of grace. I mean, he did, he did it.
Well, he didn't like it, but who would?
But who would? I mean,
one of the times the Rangers made him change positions was coming off a Gold Glove winning season at shortstop.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, I'm not saying what happens in business and in baseball and everything else is people. You take certain people for granted. And I think at some points in time, the Rangers took Michael for granted. But I think that even now as a special assistant, he's not just out there to sign a couple autographs. He's involved and he's invested in the growth of young players. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I love talking baseball with him. I love the ability to like kid around with him in the clubhouse. And I just love the way he went about the game. So,
Michael's high on my list too. I missed the years and like 2005 through 2008, when this guy was one of the best hitters in the American League.
Yeah.
And it kind of got lost a lot of times, like Evan says, because the team didn't function real well in those years.
He's definitely top 3 for me,
And
too.
it was a matter of putting up he had different managers.
Yeah.
And he had
what are you
to
saying
kind of
about the manager?
He had to kind of hold it together.
The manager in 05 was Buck Showalter.
He had to kind of hold it together, and it paid off. And that's what I think everybody was so happy for him in 2010 when we won the division and got to the World Series. And I think he didn't play long enough to be really considered as a National Baseball Hall of Famer, and it's kind of too bad.
If he'd have stayed at second base his whole career and finished with 2,500 hits or more, I think he would have been in serious consideration.
Yeah, right.
But he changed because the Rangers had no shortstop and no plan, and all he did was take over that position for 5 years, win a Gold Glove, and help the 2004 team really overachieve.
Yep.
It's too bad guys don't get consideration for that kind of thing.
They don't. And they do in some regard. Like, Michael got votes from me and TR for the Hall of Fame. And in every market, there's that guy that gets rewarded for what people who saw them, again, on a granular day-to-day basis, what they felt like they contributed to the club.
And he had so much to do with those 10 and 11. I mean, he doesn't get as much credit because it was all Josh Hamilton and, was the superstar at that point. But Michael was really kind of when things were going behind the scenes, he kind of made it work.
Enough. I can't stand saying good things about him. Can we move on? Let's talk about the number of wins.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about the number of wins. What are you thinking?
I think I've got the Rangers. I haven't put my full season prediction together yet, which will be in our special section.
Have you done your month-by-month thing yet?
I'm working on it. But I think I've got the Rangers in the 86 to 88 range right now in terms of wins. I'm going to go with them that these guys will rebound. And if they do, it puts them right on the cusp of the playoffs. The question is, can they challenge the Mariners for the division title? Possibly. But I think what it comes down to is this team's going to be playing meaningful baseball in September.
How do you see the rest of the division shaping up? Are there any other contenders there? Are the Astros a contender still?
They're still a contender, and they will be in the mix. I think the A's are the team that's going to make the biggest move this year. I mean, they've got some good young talent. They've got some good young talent.
Nick Kurtz.
The big Amish. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Such a great nickname.
We've got good nicknames in the American League West, right? Big Dumper, Big Amish.
Hell yeah.
I think they're going to make a jump, and so if the Rangers or Astros aren't careful, they're going to fall behind the A's this year. The one thing that I think works against the A's is I don't think that playing situation, in a playoff race in Sacramento on that turf in the heat of the summertime is really going to be good for them. But hey, that's what baseball allowed, and that's what the A's folks have created.
The other thing I think this year and is the beginning of the season. Rangers typically have opened the season at home. They've got to go on the road for 6 games to Philadelphia and Baltimore. They got to come home and play the Reds. They play the Mariners. They got to go to L.A.
The Rangers
the
of their first 40 games of the first quarter of the season. First quarter of the season, 27 of 40 games are against teams that made the postseason last year. Mm-hmm. And like John said, that includes a series at the Dodgers, includes a series at the Yankees, includes a series at Philadelphia, includes home and home with Seattle.
Right. So we haven't had, that is as tough a schedule in a while that the Rangers have started with.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, and it's, it's optics, right? If you get off to a good start, it's optics. But it can also hurt you just in terms of perception and whatever if you don't get off to that.
You
good
can't
start.
win a pennant in April, but you certainly can take yourself out of contention with a disaster.
We can mention 1987 here quickly. That year, Mike probably remembers this. The year Brewers won 13 in a row to start the
Yes,
season.
they
They
did.
beat the Rangers 7 times, and we came home 1-10. And we had been good in '86. We won 87 games and everything, and that pretty much derailed our season. We came home to the welcome home luncheon.
Was that when Odeby cut his hand
with a butter knife? And
Tell that
just-
story.
So that
How did he cut his hand with a butter knife?
he was trying to butter his roll, and he missed the butter and hit his finger.
But it's a butter knife. It has no blade.
Well, it was a very sharp blade. You could see them in the back. They were sharpening their butter knives. Like
Still
this
got an edge to it,
in the
haven't you?
back there.
Just like you.
But what I'm saying, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails. Like Evan says, you can't lose in April, but it's going to be interesting to see Rangers go through this gauntlet early on.
This is the thing. I will say this. This is the thing that we missed most. Rich Rice, John's protege, is great at his job, and he comes from the same school of John, of the media relations guy being a liaison and not a gatekeeper. But all that said, nobody delivered injury news like John Blake. We had so many weird injuries that Rangers suffered over the years. My favorite one was when Ryan Glenn had not enough. He had scurvy or something. Like he had not enough salt in his body,
Right.
and he was faint from that. And you had to explain that whole thing. What's your favorite injury of all time to explain?
An orange.
I missed Ned Yost. That was before my time with the eyelid keratitis.
The eyelid tension.
Eyelid tension. Josh Hamilton's was interesting with the eyes.
Eyes.
Right, the blue eyes that he
Lost balls in the sun in the blue
couldn't play
eyes.
in day games. That was interesting.
God, I'd forgotten about that.
Right, we had
So why his day game numbers
Dale
were so bad?
Mahorsic in 1986. You remember Dale Mahorsic?
Oh, yeah.
Pitched 13 games in a row. He was a career journeyman. He had to use sandpaper on his finger to scuff the ball.
Foreign substance.
Umpire comes out one day in Milwaukee, and because he'd been tipped off, so Horace swallows the sandpaper.
That's not good for your digestive system.
He comes out and has internal bleeding in this. It screwed up his. So I think we announced it as. What did we announce it as? We didn't. We said something like stomach. Something about he had a we didn't mention the sandpaper. That was an interesting one. And then Greg Harris went on the DL when he was flicking sunflower seeds, and he in his right elbow. And you remember he was our closer.
Oh, yeah.
He was flicking.
Nolan had an injury.
Nolan cut his foot water skiing.
The water skiing.
1993. Yeah. So there've been a few of them over the years.
By the way, it looks
Maybe
like-
we haven't been totally truthful on everything. Swallowing the sandpaper is a tough one to explain.
Yep, that is tough to
Now we
explain.
just he's got a left side muscle strain.
Lower body injury.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Make for better copy,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, just go with the hockey process.
Right.
Ryan Glenn apparently had syncope.
I've
Which
had
is just funny to
syncope.
say.
Right.
Really?
I've had fainting spells.
gosh.
Yes, I take medication for that now.
Oh.
Oh my, I didn't know that about you. Did you know that about him?
Do you have what?
It's called syncope. I haven't done it recently. I did it a few times.
Fainting spells?
Yes.
If you show John a drop of blood,
Well,
he
if
just
you
goes
do that,
face
I would
first.
definitely have a
It's
fainting
unbelievable.
spell,
They
yeah.
had
Where's
one
the
day.
butter knife?
One day, I will tell you this story. One day they had the Carter Blood Care was doing a blood drive out at the ballpark. It was, I think, during the off season or something. And Rich, God bless him,
It was my birthday.
it was also John's birthday. Rich had the giant the drop of blood mascot that Carter Blood Center had. And it's not a real thing of, he's not oozing blood. It's just a little fuzzy mascot.
It's just.
And he came up, seriously, you fainted.
Yeah, I did.
John
I had
fainted
to-
with
I
the
had to
mascot.
I had to go off to the side. Yeah, it was not. I'm not. When I give blood, I have to lie back on the table and all of that stuff.
Well, you told us a little while ago that you have fainting spells. That you were known for this.
So I try to not. I try to keep it. Like we all get old, we try to keep it.
Yeah, I know.
John's also had fun with mascots. I used to send the mascot, whatever stadium we were in, I'd get the PR guy and we'd collaborate, and the mascot from that team would come up to the press box and give John a hug. John did not like this
I
very
hated
much.
the mascot.
And one day I had the Tampa Bay Rays send their
Raymond.
cute little Raymond over to, and everybody loves Raymond. He's a harmless little manatee, or Sea Ray. He came over to give John a hug. It was right at about the same time that Pat Mahomes Sr., the bad Mahomes, had given up back-to-back home runs. Was it quadruple?
No, it was 3 in a row.
It was 3 in a row. And John said, if you don't get away, he said to the mascot, if you don't get away from me, what did you tell him?
I told him if he didn't, and I don't know if it was a he or a she. I said if you don't,
can't tell with the little mascot.
Right, I said if you don't get away from me right now, I'm going to flatten you, basically. And the mascot got up and kind of.
It was so sad to see the mascot trudge away.
Yeah, Evan would send these masks. It was unbelievable.
Poor Raymond looks so sweet.
Hey,
He is. Can you imagine if they sent DJ Kitty up there?
Right.
John would kick him in the.
But it was like I just, and the mascot would inevitably show up at a time when we were not doing well.
Well, there were a lot of years where that could have been any time of year.
That's right. But
Stomper, the A's mascot, came up one time.
yeah, Mr. Red brought me a cake one time.
Mr. Red brought him a birthday cake.
All right.
Did you at least
Was he
accept the cake?
in total costume with a mustache and
Oh
everything?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
And I think
like
they brought up
Mr.
they
Red.
brought up all the old-fashioned red stockings too, not just Mr. Red,
They
but
brought Mrs. Red and
all the various reds.
yeah, exactly.
Mr. Chartreuse.
So yeah, that was one of the Evans things I would always.
We had fun.
Well, I like going to the Yankees. They didn't have a mascot.
It was good times. Everybody had a good time. We're having fun here. No.
Right. Exactly.
Oh man,
Damn.
you guys are a trip. You know that?
We like y'all.
Yeah. I mean, people get the wrong idea about you guys.
Baseball, that's you're around people so much. Baseball would lead to that, and you hung out. I mean, you hung out with people. John and I would get dinner with the broadcasters all the time. We were in Seattle. We were in San Francisco when 9/11 happened. That was kind of sobering.
About when we were in Seattle, when Doug Melvin was getting.
And then
you heard this? Have you heard this story?
I don't think.
Well,
So 9/11 happens, right? Let me just set it up for
right,
John.
you set it
9/11 happens. We're supposed to go to Seattle from San Francisco, and if you recall, at that point in time, nobody is really certain whether or not baseball is going to play that weekend.
Yeah.
And as baseball would have it, typical of baseball, to let somebody else put their pinky in the air and then we'll follow. The NFL announces they're not going to play that weekend. And so baseball jumps in, we're not going to play either.
right.
So at that point in time, the Rangers don't go to Seattle. And that stretch of games that got postponed, that week-long stretch of games in mid-September,
the end of the
gets
season.
postponed to the end of the year. So flash forward, now we're going to Seattle to finish the season.
So this was 2001.
Right.
And it was we go on this road trip, and Tom Hicks calls me basically and says, look, we're gonna make a change with the general manager at the end of the season. Well, he decided he wanted to make that change on the last day of the season. So we're in Seattle, and I knew this was coming, and so I had to figure out a way, because I had to fly home to do the press conference on Sunday, right? And I had to kind of get out of town without anybody knowing. So I left my suitcase packed in my room. After we had like a late afternoon game on Saturday, so I was going to take the red eye. I was going to come back, take the red eye, and go out in the dark of night. And then Rich, who was my assistant at the time, was going to fly in Sunday morning and finish the last game of the season. So I go to the airport, and my phone rings when I'm on the plane. You know, the plane's getting ready to take off and everything. And was it you? It was Evan. And he goes, hey, we're going to go out, us and Eric and Vince Cotroneo. We're going to have a drink. It's the last game of the season. And I'm on this plane. I go, bad connection. Can't really hear you on the connection here. Can't really hear you. And so I fly back.
Just hangs up, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And of course, intrepid reporter that I am,
So
I have no idea.
So when Rich walks into the clubhouse in Seattle the next morning and hands them the press release that Doug Melvin is being dismissed and we're having a press conference with Tom Hicks that afternoon in Arlington, it became clear why I went back.
When I saw Rich walking into the clubhouse handing out press releases, the number of F-bombs I uttered with John's name on.
So that was and
you've done it to me again, Blake.
That's how that all came down. So
it's with the adversarial relationship that a guy who does what you do can have with a guy that does what he does. It's a wonder you guys are such good friends.
Well, it's
Frenemies.
Friends,
I think they call it.
friends
Yeah.
is an interesting choice of words.
But we're able to do a podcast together. So
Okay, all right. Podcast pals. How about
Yeah.
that?
Pals.
Yeah.
No, in all honesty, I mean, it's like to just say this. To watch him work for most of the last 30 years and to appreciate his understanding that the media has a job to do and that he has a job to do to facilitate the media's job, but also protect the club, and to watch John walk that line, never tipped off a story, never gave anybody any background information that would allow them to break a story, but kept relationships professional and tried to allow you to do your job. And that's the highest regard you can give to a PR guy. I don't need them to be my source. I need them to be professional in how they handle things with me.
well, I could always talk through things. Evan good talking things through a lot. Sometimes at a high decibel level.
Sometimes.
But or I'd be in the middle of something, and Evan would call, and I'd see Evan Grant on the phone. And, what do you want? There were more times than there
Okay,
were
John, I'll call you in a little bit.
Sounds like you're busy.
See you at the ballpark.
I think I've been on the business end of one or two of those too. What is it, Mike?
I think I've heard it through your phone.
Yeah.
But COVID, the pandemic changed a lot of that relationship thing, and with the team, it just, and that's kind of when I went out after 21, I went out as the day-to-day guy, and it wasn't as much. It wasn't as much fun anymore.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. It changed the way players. There were guys that hadn't been around players. I remember we opened the clubhouse in 22 in Surprise for the first time. It had been 2 years since some players had never seen media in the clubhouse. Some of the younger guys.
Yeah.
And I think it did change.
It changed the dynamic.
It changed the dynamic, a lot. And I'm not sure we're ever going to get back. And that is why I don't miss the day-to-day. I kind of like what I'm doing.
You're in a damn good place, and you're damn good at it. So are you, Evan Grant.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I
appreciate
thank you
that.
once again for jumping on here with a little YDC. Appreciate
We love
you
it.
guys.
Always fun.
Always appreciate what you guys do.
They're very quiet, Grooves, don't you?
I'm just here to enjoy y'all.
Okay.
Your shtick.
Love being on your dark companion. Hope it's not on the dark web, but
It probably is.
Yeah, it probably is, and we don't even know it.
Silk Road or whatever.
I think you're much more technically savvy than we probably are, too.
Yeah.
you should see. We do some of our podcasts on Riverside, which is a podcast platform that you guys use, and when we're not all in the same studio, John invariably has issues with his
I
microphone.
can't get my headphones to sync up with this Yeti mic.
And he just he just throws them down. And his son, Chris, who also is unbelievably patient and calm, he's like, he has to wear all this. And John's like throwing his headphones down and cussing. And we're all like, it's okay, John. We'll get it solved.
I just bought this really expensive Yeti mic, and it won't sync up. I plug it in my laptop.
See, she has the answers.
Let's say, for a,
I
for,
has
a,
can't get to sync up.
for a nominal consulting fee, Ashley will be glad to help you.
All right, they are Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, John Blake, once a Ranger, always a Ranger.
Only PR guy in the Rangers Hall of Fame, in any team's Hall of Fame.
That's right, and well
How many
deserved.
PR guys go into a Hall of Fame? Amazing.
Well deserved. If anybody deserves
Well,
it,
now,
it's
how
him.
many of them run the Hall of Fame?
So there's that.
It was rigged.
And now you know.
The more you know.
Yep. That's it for Little YDC for today. We thank you for watching. If you like what we're doing here, then get us out there on your social media. Like us, share us, do all that stuff. Get us out there. You get us out there, we'll keep doing this. Thanks to Shoopy, Ashley, Becca, you guys out there for being by the channel. Love you. Bye.
Oh.
All right. I'm going to go take my pants off. Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.